YouTube and Instagram, which should load up this time. Now that I've cleared my hard drives. Oh, Jake is the winner on YouTube. Jake, you are the center of our attention.
Lucky.
I'm like
Yeah.
I'm like Paul Lynn. I'm center screen.
Yeah. And I like the self-portrait, by the way, just so everybody knows that is a self-portrait of Jake, if you haven't seen him before.
Well, since we're live, I'd like to welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Making Turbo Pit Fighter, the podcast about a post-apocalyptic sci-fi comic in production. I'm Jake, and I'm joined, as always, with Kurt, and we also have today a special guest from time to time, Alex Turbin, the proprietor of Random Access and Mutandis and the Funk Zine, soon to come. So Kurt, since I'm in the middle, I want to show off my new sketch here. This is a character. This is a character design sheet that I've been putting off for quite a while. And here you can see.
Whoa!
And can you guess which character this is?
Oh, the Duke.
This is the Duke, finally.
Yeah! The Duke! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! So, nice to meet you, Duke.
Right, and I get a lot of questions. How come I don't have any male protagonists? The Duke is going to be because I like doing female comics, just like I like all girl bands. I like both genders, but this is going to be the Duke. During his wrestling days, I did update the Substack page. So just for Kurt, this is you can go to hellclaw.com/Duke when you're getting the next update. And if anybody else heard that, I guess you can go to that too now. But the logo here, this is going to be his parents' company. His parents invented flying scooter brand called Duca Vita, and they become popular with a biker gang called the Onyx MC, and so they become like the market leader, just kind of like Harley is in real life with the gangs and Hell's Angels and stuff. So in the future, the flying scooters are going to be Duca Vita is going to be a popular brand, and that will be Duke's family, and so we're playing around with his origins. Kurt, as everybody can see there on the left or right, I'm not sure, but he is inking the Kromita pencils, and this is going to be exciting. We're submitting a 2-pager to Alex's Funk Zine, soon to be upcoming, and Kromita is a departure because it's the first time that we're actually laying out any sequential comics for our prequel world called the End of the World Timeline, and people could read all about that on our Substack, Doom Mags. So Kurt is just starting the inking, and he's going to be doing the 2-pager and then sending it over to Alex. Alex, what are you working on over there?
Well, first, Jake, you're a little bit quiet. I don't know if that's a middle of the screen thing, because I think when I had it, I was a little quiet when I reviewed the video that we were in.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a thing on your end. It's just a little.
I can bear down on the mic if that's any better, and I could also lift up the gain here. I could goose it a little. I don't know if that's it, but Kurt will have to fix it in post, I guess.
We don't have post. Well, this is live, baby.
Oh, right. When we're doing
lean into that mic.
Okay.
So
this is as close as I can get.
Oh wow, there you go.
Yeah. Does that work?
So should we talk about funk?
We can.
Heck yeah.
First, tell us what page you're working on.
This is I've gotten a little spread a little thin on some of my projects. I've just got too much going on, So I kind of decided, like I was going to on Funk just do Mutandis, but I'm kind of consolidating things because I'm working on this Crom thing. I'm continuing the Crom that was on Jamie
Right.
Burroughs' Crom, and I'm continuing that, and I'm thinking about maybe breaking off and doing, because I've got some odd ideas about Crom, and I'm not thinking that it's entirely appropriate for the Jamie's magazine. So I might break out and to do my own thing. But so I've decided to do a couple pages anyway, because issue 1 of Funk is all done. All of the pages are all in, and I just have to assemble all the do the layouts and all that stuff. And so the second issue, most people have their art and their stories already in too. So I'm just like falling behind. So I'm thinking of just having the 2 pages be the 2 next pages of Crom that I'm working on.
Right, you're talking about your submission for Funk
Yeah,
number 2,
yeah,
right? Yeah. So
yeah.
that and how many pages is each issue going to be?
Well, the first one is 24 pages. I'm not married to that. It can be more. I don't think it should be less than that. But yeah, I think 24 pages might be a sweet spot because we've got 11, 12 artists, 11 artists.
Right. Oh, that's good.
And that's,
Yeah, because you can space it out, and this way you can have a head start for the following month and the following month, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm just kind of working on that, and I am going to work more on the Mutandis, and I'll probably be Funk number 3, maybe Mutandis, maybe more Crom. But of course, I've always got new stupid ideas, so I'm going to work on another project too. So
Right.
I can't help it.
Yeah.
I
No,
can't help it. Hey, can I jump in? Can I jump in?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, do you like? I have a measuring stick because I'll bet you, Alex, we could go toe to toe with stupid, crazy ideas. By the minute, by the minute. As a matter of fact, today I had 2 major ideas. Which I was completely like, I was doing research and everything like that. But here's my like measuring stick. Can I implement it into a comic? And neither one of
Right.
them were really, they were really not implementable into a comic. So then what I do is I shelve them. I give them a folder. This goes back to me having a drive, that's almost completely filled, and I'm trying to live stream 3 podcasts at the same time. But do you have a
Yeah.
measuring stick? Like, do you, since you have like, you've got your monthly
Yeah.
random
Yeah.
access, you've got, Crom with Jamie, and
Jamie
then
Barrows.
you've got Jamie Barrows, and then Funk, which you're the lead on there.
Yep.
Are they enough as a measuring stick, or is it
I
just?
also have another project that's almost
Oh
out
boy.
too, called the Entropy Alliance, um, and I'm always trying to get that, which I have all done pretty much, that 1900s horror. So yeah, my measuring stick is because this new project that I'm thinking of, it's like I always have these projects and then like stick them in the back of my mind, and
Yeah.
like I've done a few illustrations of Evil Knievel, and I've always thought I would really like to do an Evil Knievel story. And it's just now gotten to the point where it's keeping me up at night thinking
Oh
about
yeah.
the story. And that is basically my measuring stick is
Ah.
if it's keeping me up at night, then it has to be done, pretty much.
I
that's
love it.
great. So
I love
If
it.
I
you're
can't stop
waking up
thinking
in a
about it.
cold sweat, and you have to do evil pages.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember
Yeah.
that was probably the best back cover ad in the history of Marvel Comics.
I
Was the
agree.
Evil Knievel was advertising a little toy where it was like a motorcycle that comes with like a launching
Yeah,
thing,
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you
baby.
press a button and it goes boing across the floor.
Love it.
Um, yeah, well, Evil Knievel is exciting. He's a daredevil in real life, and for people that are of a certain age that might not know, he broke every bone in his body more than once, and he had a son. So he used to do these stunts on TV and like paid events and at like demolition derbies. But he would do jumps and he would ride like not a great big motorcycle to do these daredevil jumps. And I think his most famous was jumping across Snake River Canyon, where
Yeah.
Didn't quite
Yeah.
make it.
right. Well,
See,
isn't it that he made it, but he wiped out at the on the
Yeah,
line?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
because if he
Yeah.
would have fallen, he would have been dust. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the dude probably had a very interesting life behind the scenes. Who knows how many?
Oh, there's a great documentary on him.
Yeah,
Well,
1970s painkillers, right?
y- is that what it's called?
No. I just
I think it's just something Evil Knievel, something
Yeah.
Evil Knievel.
See, I'm not so much interested in the jumps and all that stuff. I'm more interested in him as a person, as a character. Like he was so deeply religious and forthright and good. Like there was a point where he was at one of his bike shows and he got into a like his group of bikers got into a fight with Hell's Angels, where he was accusing them of dealing drugs and all this stuff while kids are around.
word
So they
right.
get into this huge brawl, and he actually got into fights with several political figures, like physical confrontations with political figures and famous people because of this. And so really that's and his whole like he would go off, leave his family, even though he was so religious and whatever, for like months on end, and he was really kind of destitute. He didn't make a lot of money, so it just like this whole encapsulation is really what I'm interested in.
Wow. Well, I can't wait for that. So that's another coal in the fire. Another
Yeah, yeah, too many already.
right. Excellent. So and speaking of bikers, Kurt and I were at some point gonna try to do a review of a really excellent movie called The Bike Riders, which we both
Yeah.
saw recently. And it has a little comic interest to me because I've been I have on one of my back burners this concept called the B movie She Devils, and the second issue is going to feature a B movie about a female biker gang that's fighting a male biker gang. And so, as part of my research, I watch as many, Hell's Angels movies as I can, Hell's Angels on Wheels and everything. And I was watching this Bike Riders movie, which only came out like 2 or 3 years ago. And I was so impressed with this movie that I wanted to do an episode or a segment with Kurt where we could do the spoiler alert and everything. But Alex, you haven't seen that movie yet, right?
The Bike Riders.
Yeah.
That was no, I haven't seen it.
Oh yeah.
On Amazon.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It's Thomas Hardy of Mad Max fame and Venom,
Oh yeah.
and
And Elvis.
right, and the Elvis guy, right, and the acting was superb. I couldn't believe the casting and the acting on that. But Kurt, when do you think we should do that segment in an upcoming episode?
Yeah, most definitely we could do it next
All
time.
right.
But I'll just say one of the things you did say, and it was like spot on, is it's based on a guy who wanted to photo document these bikers who were yet to become the drug dealing Hell's Angels types. These were just a lot of like war veterans who just needed the kind of brotherhood grouping kind of thing. But it's from the point of view of, dang it, can't remember his name, Benny, the actor that plays Elvis.
There was kind of like a peripheral, like hang around figure who was a photojournalist, and
yeah,
he was.
But he also recorded them. He recorded her, I think, was the big thing, and it's so good. Like she's so good in it. So yeah, it's a pretty flawless modern film in my opinion. But yeah, we could do it next week. I'll put them. I'll write something down.
I'll bookmark that for a segment.
Cool.
One thing that I wanted to try to get to today was I wanted to do an unboxing of this. I got these new. I got this at Staples, believe it or not, and it was on sale for 19.99. And I've never seen. This is new. It's called Sharpie Creative Markers, and it's all different colors, 12 different colors, with a brush tip, and it's water-based acrylic. So it's like paint markers, but a brush tip and all different colors. So
Oh yeah, you got it. I've been looking for something like that.
as well, I don't know if these are crap or what. You know, they say scan to see them in action, and I scanned it when I was in the store, and it just brings you to like stupid web pages. So while we're talking, I'm going to be trying these out and applying these.
So they're like those. They're like the paint markers. What are those called? Only those are like really thick. They don't have a brush.
Yeah, I buy like pretty much every brand of paint marker I could find to test them out. But this is a new product on the market. You know, and my money is run out for the you know, teachers get reimbursed. This year it was like $235. They take it out of your pay whether you spend it or not. So
Wow.
you got to spend it.
Yeah.
And I probably spent 3 times that during the course of a school year. So
Yeah, as the
I
art
only
teacher.
give receipts to other teachers, which is technically not legal, but I don't think anybody's enforcing it down at the DOE, where we have 80,000 teachers. So I'm going to test this out, and I have some sketches to reveal to Kurt that'll be coming his way anytime soon. We've already shown the final character study I made of the Duke. I had never drawn him before, and the only thing we had was like a little doodle, which you
Yeah.
know showed like an upwards mustache thing. So I'm just gonna make him kind of like this, you know, strong wrestler guy, and there's a lot to his story that's coming soon to a theater near you. And the other sketching I did, oh right, is on this pad here. Um, I was playing around with the logo for the bike company, and I made this version and this version. I thought they came out good. You could also play around with the colors. And there is there is a real motorcycle company called Ducati, and so the name Duke comes from Duca, I guess. It'll be like an Italian lineage, and then the husband and the wife are like Duca and Vita, so Duca Vita. So that was it. This is a babe that's just the Smashing Robots. Um, that's not what I wanted to show you. I think I'm going in the wrong direction here. Oh, here. So this is something that I'm working on. It's going to be a tableau, I think you call it. I don't know what you call this, but it's going to be kind of promotional for the end of the world timeline. And it's going to have a little box here. I don't know if you can see the blue line pencil yet, but it's going to have a box here for Esoterra, Kromita, Turbo, the Sentience, the Duke,
Oh wow.
Claw,
That's
and
great.
here, the rise of the pleasure bots, and down here, the ironic saga of Elevena 2222. So this is going to be kind of
Is
like
that 11 by 17?
well, the pad is 12 by 18, so
12 by 18. Okay, that
yeah,
still works.
but there's some margin.
Excuse me.
I was hoping to have this all inked up and maybe like some color in there. And then I'll see if I could like print it out big size for the convention, because this is basically all the, you know, all the major characters that are in the timeline. Yeah, it's pretty.
So you're gonna make like a big banner?
Yeah, I was thinking about making this a blow up, and you know, and it really just highlights all the different storylines, you know, so that we could invite.
Is that for IC3? Is that?
Well, it's going to be for posterity, but I was hoping to have it ready by then.
That'd be awesome.
Right, that's what, March 15th or something?
Yep.
Right. Yeah, the P-Bots is really coming along now in the writing. That's going to be the rise of the pleasure bots with the main character Shankara Vaisha, and she's gonna also be nicknamed the Unseen Hand. The sentience is gonna be cool because these are people that live longer and than others, but their machine parts take over their biological parts little by little. And of course, Turbo's here in the middle. So some of these things are coming along in the writing, and I really have to hand it to these AI chatbot assistants that I'm using that give me absolutely no ideas, but they no, because every time I ask them for like an original idea, and I'm like, make it an offbeat idea, like not what what you would just ordinarily think of, and they just keep doing the same thing, and
It's
they just like make a list. Well, how about somebody that interfaces with machines, or and has a mind linked to machines? And I'm like, you said that 5 times. But it is great because it's just like recording everything, right? And it's a discussion. So I was even thinking of going live one day and just me and the chat bot, because it is really getting interesting the way that I dig into the science, the real science of these concepts. And I have this whole storyline that's going to be about how Esoteric and Elevena enhance humans, not only to be like stronger, faster, smarter, but also to be resistant to radiation. And I was asking AI how that could happen in real life based on the real science of today. And so I got just dragged into this hole of research about this freaking amazing micro animal that has existed for thousands of years called the water bear. It's a type of a tardigrade, and they are half a millimeter wide on average, but they have evolved to be resistant to radiation, to be resistant to like extreme cold. And I was not only talking to AI about like how does that happen on the molecular level, and then we got farther. How does that happen on the atomic level, and then how does that happen on the quantum level? And we went as far as freaking as I could take it, and I was just like mind blown. So, that's one thing that I do recommend AI for, is if you want to do your background research, it's just like instead of having to type it in Google, you just ask the damn app and they'll just talk to you, right? And, it's like sitting in a bar with an expert, you know? And then, when you say, all right, how do we convert that to the story? It's just got horrible ideas. But, it's good to know who invented this shit, who discovered it, what were the scientists, what were the experiments, how does it all work? Because I'm a real nerd for that kind of stuff. So, my
Do
latest.
you remember? Do you remember when there was that? I think Microsoft let out an AI onto Twitter, and it became like this super conservative right wing heretic.
Well, Microsoft has Copilot, and
Right.
that's a pretty decent app right now. If anybody's still using ChatGPT, where you're typing in and getting answers and reading it, there is a way to go hands free, which is really convenient if you have a drive or a commute, or if you're doing your laundry or doing your dishes. And I would recommend the Microsoft Copilot app right now, as well as the Google Gemini app right now for these kind of things. And the I've been comparing since Kurt and I last spoke to the Chat GPT app. Um, and the best one is the Chat GPT app, but you have to pay $19.99 a month if you want to unlock persistent memory. So I've been trying to mess around and see how much kind of like free persistent memory I could get away with on those other apps. And it does flush after a while, but it's very, very nebulous and indeterminate how long it takes if you're having like a deep conversation, and then you close the app and come back later, you know, because they can say, "Oh no, I don't remember that," or if you say, "Commit this to memory," then they create what's called tokens, and they make an effort to commit it more to memory, but they're not technically holding the data for you. They just, if it's in the cache, or on their servers with your account, then you're good. If not, you just got to start all over. So it's kind of maddening, and I'm considering paying the 19.99 a month and just making that a business expense or something. But all of these things are in development right now. And just another disclaimer for anybody that's listening: if you're pro AI or anti AI or whatever, again, don't expect it to do any good writing for you. Just just pretend like your mom was helping you on the phone and she was googling things for you. That's about it. And it's conversational. So the same way that I use Kurt as a sounding board every week for my crazy plot lines, you know, it asks you like real basic questions, and then Kurt also knows it has this like soup you up uh, feature, right, Kurt? Where it's like, oh, that's a great idea, right?
Yeah.
Everything's a compliment,
Just like a mom.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just like a supportive mom, right? Not a drunken mom. What are you doing with your life? As long as you don't have Judy Garland as a mom, or mommy.
Yeah.
But it just asks like the basic predictable questions. That could make a great subplot for ethical dilemmas between Esoterra and Elevena. And I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. I've been writing this stuff for months. What do you think I'm doing here? Um, but I so it has enabled me to kind of zoom ahead, and I'm trying to work on, let me see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, I have 7 tabs open at once at any given time, and I closed the tab for Reen Paw because we already posted that 3-part 3 chapters on that. But I'm working on the P-bots, I'm working on the Quantum Druids, I'm working on the Duke, working on Esoterra and Hellclaw, I'm working on Elevena. And so I was just trying to make a visual. That's what this tableau is going to be. It's going to be a visual on that. So it just kind of like keeps everything in a chart that I can just point to. And for viewers of this podcast who have listened to more than a couple episodes, we keep going back to this timeline all the time, and explaining how the world came to be ruined when the dehubertans released radioactive gas. So that's a little plug for the End of the World timeline. If anybody wants free writing in your inbox, in your email inbox every week, go to Doom Mags on Substack, and you can get a free story every time. And and that's growing and growing and growing. So now let's talk about why we love having Alex here. So Kurt and I were playing around with a suggestion by Alex to take our next Turbo teaser installment, which is going to be the next 6 pages of completed art and inked art, and put it in a Turbo World anthology rather than just do what we did last time, was like a cumulative teaser where we're going to have the first 12 pages and then add the next 6 and make it an 18 pager and just kind of use that. We only do like 30 or 50 copies or something, and then we promote that. But instead, having a Turbo World anthology. And what Kurt and I came up with so far was the possibility of premiering the next 6 pages, but then going back and having the first 12 pages repeated again, but in pencil only. And what we would have to do if we did that would be to migrate the word balloons into the pencil pages, which would probably be just a quick overlay, and I would be willing to do the work on that if Kurt just gives me the files. But if we have 12 pages of pencil only, so that we can have like a comparison, and then the 6 new pages premiering, and then we reprint the Kromita 2-pager. All we need is like another 6-pager from one of these side stories, And we do not have a timetable for this yet, but we are hoping sometime in calendar year 2025 to come out with this next installment of the teaser as we make our weekly progress on the pages, and maybe feature, start to feature some collabs with other artists. So enter Alex, and you definitely have your hands full. You got, I mean, I call you Mr. Prolific. I don't know what your other friends call you, but you're just a cranker. You just like keep churning stuff out, and you have a couple of different projects you're working on. But we think that when we go to this IC3 convention, that we're definitely going to be hooking up with some people and possibly, getting some people that might want to collab on a Turbo World sequence, kind of the way that Kurt is collabing so much now with people doing the Crom stuff. So that's why I wanted to have everything ready to go, and so we've written 2 out of the 3 6-pager free scripts that we're going to be offering. And we're going to have these other promotional materials. I made stickers, and we should have, I believe the timetable is that we're going to try to have the next teaser in hand, regardless of whatever it looks like. We'll have something new so that we could just update everybody. But are you going, Alex, in person to the
I hadn't planned on it, but I've kind of thought about it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
How far are you?
Who knows?
How far are you from there?
Well, it's in Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, New Haven.
Yeah, so that's like
A million miles.
9-10 hours away, something like that.
Jeez.
Yeah. Which my stepdaughter, we went there every. She went to college there in New Haven, so we dropped her off, and we looked at the college, and so we made that trip maybe 2 or 3 times a year for like 3 or 4 years. So it's not completely undoable, but it is a trek.
It is a
Plus, you guys drive crazy like down there.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
It's definitely a big college town. I know you got Yale there, and I think Amherst is there, and that the college that the con is going to be taking place in is called like Southern Connecticut University or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of college stuff going on there. A lot of learning, a lot of egghead.
So this teaser, how many of those first teasers did you guys make?
We printed those by hand. I printed those by hand, and probably, and it's integrated into our indie creator exchange interviewing process. Yeah. So it was something to give more of a conversation than just one-sided, like, wow, you have a great comic book. It was more for Jake and I to also get information from the outside world, since we've been so far away from it, literally out of touch for 20 years on that. But the second run I ran 50, and I think I'm down to 20. So I probably sold at least 12, and like the others, I believe I have definitely done the indie exchange on. But I just want to add, Jake, for clarity purposes about this anthology, which is not hammered down, is the bigger question will be how we will go about printing it, because I don't want us to put it in a like a hand printed kind of zine type of thing. I want to do one more up, which was a part of a conversation episodes back with Alex, because he is a comics printer. He's printed zines for everybody, from there. So really at that point, the question goes over to Alex, that if, we're gonna have you involved in let's say the printing just right now. You've mentioned often that there's a capacity of how many pages you can print and bind. Is 24 kind of that sweet spot for you, or are you able to
24,
go beyond that?
24 is the sweet spot. But
Okay.
I've done way more. It at that point it depends on page thickness or paper thickness and stuff. I just got done printing a bunch of Gulligans. I don't know if you've ever heard that by Mike Mike Ford and Friends. It's like this weird little I don't know what you'd call it. It's this weird little sex magazine, pretty much. And that was 60 pages, and that took me,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was full color, and that it takes me like if somebody ordered 10, that would take me like a week or so to do. So,
Wow. Okay.
but that's that's a lot of pages. So 24 pages is probably the best
Yeah.
as far as my printing
So
capabilities.
yeah, when we had the pages finalized digitally, I took my version and I went to a quick print place, and I got 30 copies made. It was about $100, maybe like $108. And I'm really happy with it. I don't know how long this process lasts. I don't know what happens as the pages get yellow and what happens to the ink, because these things have only been around for like 10 or 15 or 20 years. But it's great. It looks good to me. For me, it's worth paying the money to not have to cut and assemble and staple and everything. Not have to think about it. So I'm willing.
It was $100 for 30 of them.
I think it was like 100 and maybe 111, $118 for 30 copies. Yeah.
All right, well, I can do way better than that with a glossy cover.
Yeah, well,
Ooh.
this was before we spoke to you, so
Yeah,
we're definitely leaning towards doing something with you. And
yeah, definitely.
yeah, that's an interesting angle now, because when you go to cons, you see, all the different artists, you see all of the different publishers, you see all of the different, retailers, and you see lots of people in the biz. But the printers, it's another angle now, because for so many years it was a gateway, and you had to have like offset presses, otherwise you were just doing it on a Xerox machine. But freaking nowadays, you can buy a pretty good printer, that they have in copy shops, you know approaching the level that they have in copy shops, um, at home. And if you're just trying to save yourself money whenever you're doing printing jobs, or take on jobs for other people. And so,
Yeah,
I'm predicting that we're going to see that more and more. It might be somebody like you who's making their own stuff, but also like willing to take on clients, on the side, and just have your print shop set up. So that's also a possibility. And when I get my final house, I'm renting right now, but when I buy a house and move in and get all settled in, one thing I want to consider is getting a printer scanner all in one that's actually decent, so that I can not only scan pages for Kurt, but also maybe print out here, myself too.
that's one of the things about the all-in-one or the two-in-one or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
flatbed scanners, is that like I probably have saved at least $200 on just copies, on just scanning
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
having mine.
Yeah.
Because I would go like every week, every other week to Staples, and I would spend, $20, on whatever, and that's just copies.
Yeah.
So, having a big flatbed scanner is a huge benefit.
Yeah, because you don't want to draw small, and you don't want to have to tile your scan. That's a pain in the ass. I mean, I do that all the time because I have an 8.5 11 scanner. But
Yeah,
yeah, when in order to get those pages over to Kurt that he has right now, I had to go to Staples, and
yeah.
I said, "Oh, I'd like a copy made of this, and if possible, could you put it on my jump drive so I can come back and get more copies in the future?" Now that was a lie, but I paid like, I think like $6 for you know, a printout of each page, and then they were nice enough to put it on the jump drive. But you might have to get like a decent you know, cashier person or copy, you know, department person that isn't like, oh, I'm gonna have to charge you $11 for a separate digital scan, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, because you know, I just made it like, oh no, I just want to get the copies, and the scan is an afterthought. You know, so I can come back and do more business. I guess that was a little bit dishonest of me, but I'm
Right.
confessing all my sins here and now.
One of the things you might want to think about as a giveaway is for the con is stickers. I've heard that stickers do really well.
Oh yeah, no, I mentioned
You- you-
I have a cool sticker.
uh,
They
yeah.
weren't that cheap, but they're freaking amazing, because they're so like waterproof, and they're kind of thick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, I'm from the old school New York City graffiti movement, and so these are fun to do slap tags anytime I'm down in Brooklyn or anytime I'm in Manhattan. And then you know, even up here where I live, you know, there's this street art guy named Vinny. He's like an electrician, and all you see is he thinks he's Shepard Fairey. So all you see all over the place are these Vinny stickers, and he's got different styles, but it's just such a direct rip of Obey, you know, and Shepard Fairey. But now I'm going to try to give him a run for his money up here in my county, and you know, and then when I'm down in the city now and I'm paying like $9 to cross 60th Street because of the new congestion pricing law in Manhattan, I'm going to be plastering these, as many as I can get away with, you know, in bathrooms or on the back of street signs or wherever there's a door that already has a ton of stickers. So we have those, but I went to a company called Sticker App. Never go to Sticker Mule because that guy's a douchebag and he's running for Congress now in upstate New York. But Sticker App was, I, I had a, I had I had a good experience. It's just not that cheap. I think I got 200 made, and you know, they end up being something like, I don't know, something like 50 cents a piece. Really, that's a lot of money. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't skip.
Yeah, I think for stickers, it's best to wait until they'll have periodic sales where they'll be like you know, $10 for 100 or something like that.
Yeah, that's now that I have the design ready to go, I'm gonna wait when they do have a sale. I'm gonna get something a little smaller because
Yeah.
I realized like what I got is it's like half the size of a bumper sticker. You know, it's a weird size. I think it's like maybe like 5 by 2.5 or 5 by 3 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good advice, and I got my eyes open. Although, if you use these services, next thing you know, you're inundated with freaking junk email from
Yeah.
stickers.com. So I gotta unsubscribe. It's like, yeah, I ordered stickers. Did you think I was gonna order stickers every freaking day? I mean, God, what do you think I am? A promoter here? You know, like so.
That's why they banned TikTok,
Right?
basically.
Yeah, I know. My daughters are talking about it last night. They were like,
Crying.
they're crying.
TikTok's going away.
It's not like it was a surprise. They've only been talking about it for years.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't take too long. They're on this thing called Red Note now, or Little Red Note, or something.
Yeah.
And it's another Chinese company
Yeah.
who stepped into the breach. So you know, I guess.
Well, that's why they didn't give it. That's why the Chinese didn't give a crap. They're like, really, guys, really? It'll take us 35 seconds to set up a new server, and basically then just start advertising on TikTok. And by the time you shut me down, you know, we'll have a, you know, they're not worried at all. Not worried at all.
Right. Well, the TikTok thing will continue, but it'll just be under a different name. And you know, if the Chinese government was data mining, I don't see how that's different from all of our American companies. You think Amazon doesn't have like a file on Kurt Bruegel with like 88 points of reference about his buying habits.
Right,
boy.
but the difference is intent on what you're going to use it for. Like Amazon, they're going to use it to sell you more stuff. The Chinese, they could use it to shut down, our electric grid or whatever.
Well, and
So
you're right,
that's
and
kind of the
now,
difference.
yeah, and now that brings us into a pretty great segue because, um, pretty routinely now on this podcast, Kurt and I talk about what's going on in real life that relates to our paranoid post-apocalyptic dystopia, and I sent Kurt a link like maybe 2-3 weeks ago. The CEO of Google, or the former CEO of Google, was this guy Eric Schmidt, and Eric
Did you
Schmidt.
watch that whole interview? Did you watch that whole
No,
interview?
I just the
Oh
clip I
boy.
sent you was enough for me. But
Yeah.
I'll go over the gist, and if you saw the whole interview, feel free to add. But Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, Google has started getting into some very interesting areas. They were heavily invested in renewable energy in a couple of different ways. They were heavily invested in driverless cars. They see themselves positioned as going from search engines to like a major futuristic technology company. But Eric Schmidt is on, I believe he's on his own now and some other endeavor. What he has done is he's become a registered arms dealer, and he's creating futuristic weapons, and he is going to, you would imagine, be an ally of the US, but maybe not. Maybe he'll be for sale to the highest bidder, or maybe, I mean, does anybody think they're going to take an oath to do no harm, ethically across the world? Who knows? So, and how about Elon Musk? Elon Musk is the owner of Twitter and Tesla, but he also literally controls the freaking satellites that guide the intercontinental missiles that are being used right now in the Russia-Ukraine war, and God knows how many other conflicts that are real, and people are dying. As a matter of fact, a story emerged that Elon Musk interfered because Ukraine had this offensive that they were going to do a major attack on a submarine port, and Elon Musk put the kibosh on it because he didn't want there to be so much damage for whatever reason to the Russian fleet. So these tech guys are right now inserting themselves in stuff, and it's been pretty historic that the big entrepreneurs are contacted by the CIA, the FBI, and to put to see how industry can help, Uncle Sam. That's been historic, throughout our history. So I would not put it past any of these tech giants in America or any other global tech company to be working for the military industrial complex, working to promote war, working to create weapons that are going to harm people. I don't know specifics, but there's enough examples in history that you can pretty much assume it's not good. So that's just more of Jake's paranoia every week. In this segment we like to call, you know, Jake's little freak out or whatever. But
Well, just to jump in for the ex CEO, retired CEO of Google, and this whole he lists the things that he is, angel investor, or
Right.
just technological advancer and everything, and he finishes off with and an arms dealer, and and it's a giggly kind of thing because he's at some sort of tech conference and stuff. But what I felt when I don't know, maybe it's like another 20 minutes in discussion about this, technology from here on out, you really got to go back like 10-20 years, is so highly integrated behind us that right now it's becoming a social topic. So everything we're talking about is 20 years old
sure.
to these major corporations and these major
Right.
people that everybody loves to pick on because they have so much power. Oh, because they've been given so much control. Oh, so on and so forth. But the thing the thing about this individual, Schmidt, it is really about, I took this away, is there, if you're going to ultimately use technology in every aspect of our lives, even the saddest and poorest aspect of us as human creatures and the way we interact and integrate with each other, is going to have to get figured out. And our need and desire to fight one another has to be integrated and over time learned. It goes back for me to the whole self-driving cars. Now, the majority of the self-driving cars, are safe, but the process is one based on any kind of technology is negative error information. So you can only learn from that which would be in a self-driving car, the accident it has. Now, we don't want people involved, but if you get fender benders or a head-on collision or a rear ending, all these types of things that do happen in car driving, over time, those are just going to be completely eliminated because the car itself will be driving based on all of this imperial data to keep us safe. Now, it's really funny because I just had breakfast with my martial arts teacher, Sensei Rick Berry, and his favorite movie is a movie called Colossus Forbin Project. And he showed it to the dojo, and there was quite a lot of younger people had an immediate reaction to some of the misogyny that's in the story, but that's 1968, everybody. But you guys have got, well, Jake's watched the movie. Have you seen it ever, Alex?
No.
I'll get you a copy if you want. It is so of the time because the premise of the movie is just this. Oh, we're just going to turn a computer on and it's going to take care of us. Well, and the opposite happens. And the Russians have one too. So Colossus and Guardian become almost like in when things are
they team up.
They kind of do, but it's really all about how the computer is figuring out the best options for us to keep us safe. But it's dealing with empirical data, which we don't know what goes in there and stuff. So we are in. It's mind-blowing. I think it's mind-blowing in a science fiction level of fantasy, how quickly it's so normal for us to have these conversations about the way we communicate with each other, the way drones are able to come out of the sea and fly around up and down the Jersey Shore. I mean, it's just
right.
And I can say with feeling like if you are suffering from like some anxiety about it, and as I've said, to Jake, is this it's a perfect opportunity now to put that in journaling, which the journaling could become a creative outlet. But to get this stuff out as point of view, I think as we're going to get more and more science fiction, coming down the road, and fantasy, if you will. Hopefully.
Oh yeah.
No, it's here already. It's and the technology. You mentioned drones. I mean, I have kind of like a plot line where there's this team of scientists. It's going to be Esoterra's parents, but they're also going to be like these innovators in a lot of different fields of science that are all going to be assassinated by the Dehuberdins and their technology secrets taken, because in the future, scientific knowledge is going to be much more guarded. And it goes against kind of like the tradition of science, because the whole point is to have peer review and to have other people build upon your work, that could come out of nowhere, because they see your research and they see your papers that are studied, and they say, all right, if that's the principle, then we can do this and we can do that. But that's all going to change because of competitiveness and commodification. And part of that is going to be robotics, because it's going to be it's going to be where we're not just selling robots to make money. It's going to be like, whose economy can be the most competitive because they have the best robot workforce. And it's going to be about energy, right? How is energy produced? That's a big deal. And it's also going to be about military power. So that means, the weapons of war. And I can only imagine what, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt is working on right now in his projects that are 10 years ahead of public knowledge. But we used to have where, science would publish and it would be available to anybody across the world. And because of that, you had an equilibrium where there was kind of like, mutually assured destruction. And that all ended, in the nuclear age, because it was like, all right, if we split the atom, we can create a secret weapon that can destroy an entire city in the blink of an eye. Nobody can know this. And so, now imagine if there's a breakthrough with, fortifying. I mean, now I'm getting to my fiction, but imagine if there was a breakthrough and say, hey, we could make humans impervious to radiation, right? That would not be shared for the benefit of mankind. That would be coveted by a military that would then, fortify their soldiers exclusively
Yeah.
so that they
Yeah.
could bombard, places, right? And so, I want to talk about, like the ethical dilemmas of this as, scientific knowledge becomes so powerful that it can, it's more powerful than, than a superhero's superpowers, or more powerful than, tanks and bombs and missiles. It's like the scientists are the new warriors, and and secrecy is so vital. And you know I mean, I think we're already here at the dawn of quantum computers. And what Kurt said before about people's apprehension that AI is going to take over somehow, or it's not going to, or there's going to be some kind of unexpected negative ramifications. Um, Yes, that there was a 60 Minutes segment on AI where the leading guy, I know they had some old dude there who's been working on this for like 50 years, and he's didn't say good things. And you know how 60 Minutes ends with like, right? So it's like, whoa, like they always end like on a dramatic ending, right?
Yeah.
That's how this segment ended. They were like, no, no, AI is not necessarily good. We don't know what we're doing. We don't have safeguards. The government is way behind, the street on this, and we're just cruising to the edge of a precipice right here. And this is like the main guy, who's been in this field, saying that, ever since ChatGPT went public, now all of these industries are getting into it, and they're not just looking at how they can automate things. They're also looking about all. I mean, look, all it takes is one bad actor, right, in this world. If you have, you know 3D printers that could be making drones 24/7, and make yourself, so it might take a couple of weeks or months, and now you have a swarm of drones, right? All you need is 3D printers, some blueprints, and some, raw materials. Now, these drones could be armed with lots of different weapons. Um, you know, if you could have them fly over reservoirs and just poison all the water for gigantic cities. You could have all these terrible things that could be done, and we just need to rely on the kindness of people not to fucking do that. Otherwise we're cooked. And so my storylines are like, all right, what if it was a big corporation, and what if the countries got involved in politics, and we're seeing all that, and everybody's out for their own self-interest. And I'm playing around with these ideas, but I am very worried about real life, because all it takes is one bad apple, some evil scientist, or some like evil, not even a scientist, but some evil entrepreneur, or some rich person, and they could, using this technology, I mean, it's coming to bite the U.S. in the ass right now, because we were doing drone assassinations in like 2004 in like, you know, Afghanistan and Pakistan and wherever we said there was like quote unquote terrorists. And you know, did anybody think that, you know, they wouldn't catch up and figure out how to make their own drones? So now we're seeing these mystery drones all over the US, and we're like, okay, you know, they seem to be harmless, but you know, but we're the ones that started killing people from the sky using our military drones. You know, and now you're seeing military drones all over the Mid East, all over, you know, the Saudi Arabia, Turkey, all these places. There's some of them are for surveillance, some of them are armed, and you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but you know, I do feel that war and, you know, military is going to be more and more and more automated. I think we could all agree on that. And you know, and the question is, what happens if there's a non-military force that just has a bone to pick with somebody, or maybe they want to do some corporate, you know, terrorism. You know, maybe they want to take out a rival. You know, you know, there's just it's just, you know, to me very compelling because the technology is just going to be come to, you know, to the hands of anybody. Um,
So I have a question for you.
yeah,
Like you guys talk about this technology and all this kind of apocalyptic stuff, and it's I'm wondering how you stay out of but you never really talk about politics, and I'm wondering how you stay out of politics when it is so integrated into that kind of stuff.
You talk about real politics?
Be real politics, yeah.
yeah,
Because
Well,
I mean,
I personally shut it down. Just so you know, it's like
right,
where Jake's at right now is his writing approach, and he is
right,
expressing his anxiety. And
right,
I'm here to listen compassionately, but I don't agree with a majority of what Jake says. Like, I'm not on Jake's side with agreeing of the point of view that he has. I'm one half of Turbo Pit Fighter, you know, and I
right,
have the inking. My personal stand, and I'm not putting this on Jake, but my personal stand is that type of stuff has politics, and the talk about current event politically has nothing to do with my comic books. Like, I'm not in
right,
comic
right,
books to run a platform. I'm here to escape it. And so
right,
for the
right,
time
right,
period, so with Jake, even at this point, you know, I like to remind our viewers that we're dealing with a post-apocalyptic genre. You know,
right,
Mad
right,
Max as a movie is really the heart of where we're at. But the whole, like, you know, and Jake and I completely agree about this, is like, is it completely insane to be trying to make a post-apocalyptic comic book in a world like this? And so it does become conversational and current events topical to get
right,
us into some kind of frame of mind. But if somebody wants to start having some weird, in my opinion, this is completely, once again, it's all from my point of view, conversation that they think is going to have any outcome of and in change through social media politically, I'm just not there. I'm just not. I don't have anything
right,
to be
right,
attracted to. So I mean, that's Alex. That's my answer. Like I said, I do not speak for Jake, and Jake does not speak for me.
right,
no, yeah,
right. Well,
we're
the
here for
the thing I'm thinking though is like you're talking about private corporations having all of this power, and so you have like the conservatives want everything to be privatized, right? Basically. And which is kind of what you're talking about, where you're having the oligarchs or whatever having all of the power compared to the liberals, which think the government should be bigger and control more. So you have like this dystopian possibility from each side, where you have the privatization, and they can do whatever they want, or you have the government taking over and they can do whatever they want. And it just feels like it is all political in the start of what you're
And
saying.
yeah. So you can go way back. You can go to Star Trek, and you can go to Gene
Yeah.
Roddenberry and the Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
and you know these stories were always coded with that in the mind. Like they would, instead of like Gene Roddenberry was warned, no, you can't get political, but I have a platform on network TV every week, and he was like, it doesn't matter. You're not going to say left or right. So
Yeah.
Right, right,
instead they would say, okay, aliens, right? So now the
right,
aliens
right. That
metaphor,
Fascist
right, right,
aliens,
right.
communist
Or like
aliens.
they're half black and half white,
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
So we're kind of there now. Admittedly, my bad guy, the DeHuberton family, it's not a bunch of corporations anymore. It's just one. And so I'm kind of like caricaturing the consolidation that we are seeing in real life. And I wouldn't say that that's a lefty or righty thing. I would say that is a big business thing, and that you can have you know
It's an obvious
you
thing.
can
Right,
It's
yeah,
very obvious.
but you can make an argument that Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates are Democrat, leaning, and that they're on the left, but
right, right.
they're also displacing millions of jobs over decades and decades. They're consolidating money, and now Jeff Bezos, in real life, I guess we're time stamping this like we sometimes do, but tomorrow is not only Martin Luther King Day, so I'm off school, but it's also Trump's inauguration, and it has been announced that he is going to have Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and whoever the CEO TikTok CEO is, lined up behind him as he makes this speech. And we don't get political. I mean, like, I'm not making any commentary. I'm just stating what's going to be happening tomorrow.
Sure,
Right,
sure.
And
right.
but that is a statement. That is a statement that this administration is going to be the billionaire administration. I have all this firepower behind me. We have Facebook, Twitter, Tesla, Amazon. Is everything you buy, but it's also every single you know download, every single keystroke you make on the internet. Like 60% of it is hosted on AWS, Amazon Web Service.
Yeah,
So these guys are in line to get billions and billions of dollars of government contracts. And I think I just saw a piece just now this morning that said that German intelligence is publishing in Reuters that the billionaires will be co-presidents and co-planners of this administration as it pertains to all facets, including military. You could only imagine, that it's going to extend into everything, because money talks, and these guys have the ultimate platforms that they bought and paid for. So in the Turbo Pit Fighter story, we have kind of exaggerated, and but we do have a multi-trillionaire family that consolidates every single industry eventually, and they do it through intermarriage, which is kind of a throwback. But that also signals trust, and it also goes back to, like, kind of like human, the human condition. And there are going to be the rise of the cult. It's going to be all different factions. And in this post-apocalyptic future where there's a big resistance to this big corporation, it's going to be a lot of people, every man for themselves. And and as they create these mutual aid societies, some can be as big as a whole county, some can be as big as a small city. And the corporation is really just out for itself. They're trying to get as many customers as possible, and to have PR, that promotes their brand. But by the year 2222, they're going to take over the US government, because they're at that point the biggest supplier of everything, including weapons. And the government can no longer keep up, and the government will become just as just like any other faction, except instead of saying, like, we're the Moonies, and we live in this like compound, they're going to be like, well, we're the FBI, and we live in this bunker, compound, and we have all these resources, and or we're the CIA, or we're the DEA, or we're the EPA, whatever, and whoever's still around is just going to subsist and try to, continue. I mean, Kurt and I talk about all the different facets of this, but it's at one point, taxes are going to become voluntary, right? And the U.S. government is only going to be a part of the puzzle. The bigger part of the resistance is going to be led by Elevena and and her super squadron of enhanced females. But that's where you got to bring in some suspension of disbelief and some entertainment value, because you don't want people just like reading this and just getting depressed and and putting a gun.
Right.
You want to be like, all right, I want to see some action, I want to see some muscle beads, I want to see some cool fight scenes, I want to see some decent artwork, I want to see some some quality.
Well, the thing we bring up a lot, like, and I'll do it again, is that the beginning of Mad Max, the first one, all three of them, all of George Miller's Mad Max start the same way. In under 2 minutes, the world goes to shit. But there's no specific call to any event, and therefore, I believe that's magic in how George, sequentially, by putting out these films and leaning heavily into a post-apocalyptic world, causes the watcher to apply today and then expand the imagination of the film, because that's truly, in my opinion, the best art out there. Is it gives you just all the right amount of ingredients for you to bake the cake. And the thing that drives me crazy about entertainment is most of it is artificially inseminated and GMO'd cakes were delivered. And there's no room to like really get into like a space where, like, I remember in college, we did all three Mad Max, and of course, there's a lot of drinking and drugs and everything involved while this is happening. But man, we got into the most incredible argument, so much so that a friend of ours said, "You know what?" He was like, "Stop." And everybody was like, "Oh no, he must be upset or something," because we were getting pretty heated. He's like, "We're fucking up." We're like, "What?" He goes, "We should be recording this." Because some of the ideas we actually started developing into stories, movie scripts, because my roommate was a minor in film. So his goal was to go out and make movies and stuff. And, other friends were writers, aspiring. I was into comic books. It was just, but it was all because we watched 3 Mad Max movies back to back. And somebody was like, "Oh, that was because of the 70s. Or that had nothing to do with the oil." You know what I mean? They're in Australia. They're not in Texas. You know what I mean? Like, and so it kept like elevating. But we were in art school and, kind of out of our skulls. But at the same time, we were able to really take the materials of what was being delivered to us by a creative genius, George Miller, and start manufacturing our own in that way. I also want to remind people in what Jake and I do every month is twofold. Every week, every Sunday is twofold. First, it's to keep us on task, like getting pages done, because we only have the time allowed based on our careers and our social path and everything in life to be able to spend that time. But we're also allowing people to come into the back door, and sit in the bleachers in the dark and basically listen to, how we're formulating this world. And I'll say it, and I've said it before and not often, and I don't have a lot of time to put towards it right now, but eventually I will be delivering my own turbo-centric material, and it's really just for me right now. the platform, as Jake is doing what he does as the primary writer, and the point on this is really fleshing everything out. My thing about the only thing that trumps post-apocalyptic for me is Sword and Sorcery, because Sword and Sorcery deals with the human against society. That's the primary for me. So that's, dealing with Robert E. Howard's, sort of like construction of a good Sword and Sorcery with and everybody will or will not choose to lean into, is his abject horror towards the evil that takes place in society. And so to be a freebooting mercenary thief, this thing that functions outside of society, glamorous as it may be, have come about, those earlier stories were not that sort of thing. And they were heavily influenced by cosmic horror. So it was really the existential part of it and stuff. But, my goal with with Crom Anthology and my own Crom the Barbarian initiative is that, that will run out in a couple of years. I will have completed my arc, because I do have a mission and a purpose with that, and to get it out there. But I will then be completely devoted to, Turbo Pit Fighter.
Yeah, I mean,
as a goal, if that happens.
Sword and Sorcery is so interesting because it's a genre that was really created arguably in our lifetimes, between 1970. I mean, in the comics, it took a leap, right? Because how many people are like paperback nerds or book nerds versus the time that it takes in between 1969-70, when Conan 1 is published by Marvel, and then the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie comes out, and now Conan's a household name. But that's an interesting thought you had about Robert E. Howard's overarching theme, that the loner, the warrior, he's powerful, he's maybe Robert.
They completely discuss that in the they have those books, which are the Robert E. Howard and the Lovecraft letters, where they go into detail on their thoughts on society and all of that stuff.
Yeah, interesting.
Not very positive. Not a very positive, because they were outsiders in the truest sense, the truest identifier, and that's also, I think, one of those other underlining things, when it comes to being an artist and expressing yourself. If you could actually express yourself to another group of people that are also feeling that way, and that's how I felt about Conan comics. I really did believe those comics were giving me a message to stand up for myself and be strong, and just these ideals a 14-year-old comes in contact with, and especially, like I've said, having periods of being bullied, and then finding that by standing up, and physically having altercations with the bullies, suppressed bully, being bullied and the such. And I kind of lean into that type of thing. But yeah, it's those guys were doing something, I think, unbeknownst to how people would pick that up and move forward on it. And it's pretty amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
I'd like to see, because we're seeing, these visionary creators who, they start out with a concept, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a movie, and then it ends up being like a world unto itself. I told Kurt about the time I took my daughter to Universal theme park, and you go into the Harry Potter section, which is like freaking like 6 blocks all by itself. You go through this gate, and then you're in Harry Potter world, and I just couldn't believe, like, everybody's buying in, everybody's wasting all this money on plastic wine. They're buying butter beer, and they think this is cool. They buy like an owl, the mechanical animatronic owl that sits on their shoulders, and they all walking around with capes. There are people that go there every day. I mean, it's really, it's kind of sad. But
I love it.
that's a world, right? So they have the Harry Potter world. Think about Disney. He created multiple world. I mean, he created the Disney theme parks, and you can get immersed in that. Think about Star Wars. This is a world now, and it's got so many subplots. Think about Planet of the Apes. They're on their 12th or 13th or 14th movie. It just goes on and on. So we don't have the Conan world, the Robert E. Howard world yet. We don't have the theme park. We don't have the
Thank
thing
God.
where they're really cashing in on the rubes and getting them to spend their all of their discretionary money. We don't have that yet. I guess it's still too nichey, but
I would love a Conan world.
yeah, but
I would go to a Conan world every day.
right, because and my older daughter Delilah, she goes to the Renaissance Fair up here in
That's cool. I was just thinking that.
yeah, we have that up here in Orange
Yeah.
County, New York. It's not too far. And
I used to do those.
I think she goes once or twice a year. She's got some nerdy friends that enjoy that. You could very easily, I mean, think about how little it would cost to have a Conan world, right? It would just it would just be some grassy fields and some people with swords and shields. And, make movies, make films. I could see
A giant snake.
right.
Yeah.
Lots of giant snakes.
Yes. Well, you would take all of the characters and make exhibits and make experiences. I don't know if you would have a ride necessarily, maybe like a water flume or something. But yeah.
Just be drunk in the tavern all the time.
Right. Well,
That's where I would be.
The tavern and the winches. And the but it just a question of how far your vision goes, and I think Walter Elias Disney was the first one that really branched out, and he said, I'm going to create something called a theme park in 1955, and he bought all these orange groves in Orlando that were doing nothing, and now we see this empire. They own Marvel, they own Star Wars. They have their own channel. They're big, stock and power company within entertainment. And they, I have to admit, as much as I hate, your giant corporations, they have some pretty wholesome family content that you can buy year after year, decade after decade. We could all talk about the first Disney movie we saw when we were literally like 4 or 3,
Puff the Magic Dragon.
Oh,
or
right.
what was it? The Apple Dumpling Bunch. I remember that.
Yeah,
Those
Apple
weren't
Dumpling Gang.
Apple Dumpling Gang. That was big. Those were big moments for me, and and that's like kid thing. I was totally down with going to Disney World because my grandparents lived down there. My parents would ship us, my brother and I, away for 2 weeks during the summertime.
So what you're saying is eventually you're going to have a turbo pit fighter world.
Oh,
where you can go into the arena and fight.
Well, I don't think that happens before the first comic comes out. So we're just doing one lily pad at a time.
So that's a question I have for you. How many pages do you guys have done of Turbo?
That depends what you call done, because Kurt has this ADD way of jumping around, and he'll do like 80% inks on a page, and then he'll go back and do 100%. So if you want to know, basically 18 pages is done on issue number 1. But he can probably tell you that a dozen or more pages are done at the 80% level or the 60% level, whatever. And then on issue 2, I'm working on page 22 now of pencils.
Right.
So there's a lot here, but it's just not presentable yet.
Right. So how many pages is each issue going to be, or is?
I think
30.
I think issue 2 goes
30 pages.
Wait, I can tell you right now. I think issue 2 goes to 32 plus 4.
So I'm just kind of wondering why the teasers are cool, but why aren't you just releasing the first issue? Because it seems like you're either done or you're close to being done. Why don't you release the first issue as
No,
it
we're
is.
not. We're not. We only.
You're
I
not.
stopped working. Yeah. Now his count on my pages being completed is at. I'm at 14 pages, and we're
14.
the goal.
Okay.
The goal has been to get 6 pages at a time, and this is why I initiated the teaser, was
Right.
because it's very much on multiple facets of promotion, engagement. Keeping people like in a mindset, like, all right, well, they're gonna take as much time as they're gonna get, and they're doing what they're doing, but at least I paid $3 and I got this hand printed turbo teaser, because when this shit goes off, and Jake and I are in our 90s, and people are giving us whatever kind of accolades for persevering. And you're one of those
Right.
people that was lucky enough to be there at the beginning, not and was the thing that my business model and thinking it's twofold. The first fold is you got to think long distance. You got to think 10 years out. You got to have a plan. You got to stick to it 10 years out. The second thing is you got to be completely driven by the feeling of wanting to build a community. And
Right.
those two things, I believe, are tactically speaking, offensives against what we're experiencing with TikTok and Instagram and even YouTube, where they're absorbing attention. They're just consuming your attention. But what Jake and I are delivering, and you too, Alex, I want to just stop right here and say your channel and your review of comics is still at the top of my looking forward to jumping on
Thank you.
YouTube. And you have such a personal approach to viewing a comic, and then on top of it, you dive into the construction of it. It's very educational.
Right.
And I, if somebody out there is not, subscribed to Alex Turbin, YouTube channel, come on, and you're into this kind of stuff, get over there, like, immediately.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about right now, and and the thing too is, if I was to say, you and I feel like are kind of like-minded in process, like the
Right.
ADD and the jumping from project, because you
Yeah.
always start the first 3 minutes talking about what
Yeah.
you're working on. And last week I said that, and I love it because it makes
Yeah.
me feel good about having the same kind of feelings when it comes
Yeah.
along in going about it, but you're still accomplishing stuff. So,
Right. Right.
it's not to answer the question, like, in why don't we just put out a comic book? Once again, we only have Sundays. Both of us really do. And Jake can answer, he can redefine this answer. But we really get together based on the idea that, I'm at Jake's house, and we're going to talk about not only working on Turbo and work on pages, but what's going on. Like, what did you watch?
Right.
Did you watch
Yeah.
movies? Did you get a comic? Like,
Yeah.
it should be that, instead of this, like, crying out loud, Kurt, why don't you know what I mean? Like, this has to be done.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't it makes no sense to run a business like that at this level. It just doesn't to me. Like, and if somebody's listening and going, well, that's why you're not successful. No, I'm actually very successful. This is going to be even more successful because we're giving it the right amount of attention when we can. And it's all positive. It's all positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
But it also it depends what you consider success as well.
Correct.
Right, exactly. I mean, we've interviewed so many people, and their business model is, I like doing comics, and they're like, I'm not losing money, but I'm not making that much, but I'll do this till the end of my days,
Yep,
because,
that's me.
yeah, right.
Yep.
And me too. I mean,
And me three.
This is what I want to do when I retire, and I hope I can make more than a little, or I don't think I'm going to be making as much as I'm making as a teacher, including benefits and all that. But I'll have all that once I retire. So I worked hard, and I hope that I'll be able to do this many more hours per day or per week than I'm doing it now, and that to me sounds very exciting. So I'm 3.5 years away from that. Anyway, for now, Kurt and I have Sundays, and I'm such a bad boy because I was doing all this other stuff, and I just got back to this panel I'm working on Turbo page 22, where there's this like overhead scene. But I do need to report back on these Sharpies, and I have never
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
so impressed before with a new material. These are called Sharpie creative markers.
Can you show the flexibility of the points?
Yes.
Like, can you do something?
These things are
Like,
really,
how thick and thin can you get?
so it's
Oh, wow.
it's got a if you press lightly, you get a very very thin point. At
Oh,
least,
wow. I got to get some.
at least when these are new. I know these were only $19.99 for the whole set. Now, I'm maybe I could have a bone to pick with the color selection here. This gray is very interesting. I'm gonna use this gray because I tend to like light colors. Like basically, what I do in my life is like I buy a box of Sharpies like this, like fake Sharpies like this. I mean, I literally have like I don't know how many this is. This might be like 150 Sharpies. So I'm good on black. All right. And colors like dark green, dark purple, dark brown, and everything. To me, it seems like a waste of marker because you want to build value little by little. So I'm really really impressed here. And this particular picture I'm drawing, I'm going to switch over to colored pencils or something else. But I really like the flow of this, the smoothness of it. It's acrylic. It's like water-based acrylic marker
So
on a
is
brush.
it opaque,
Yes, it's pretty opaque.
or
Yeah.
like you can see through it a little bit, but not much?
Let's test out that theory.
And also, what about mixing, and like markers can blend into each other and stuff? Can they do that?
Let's see here. No, it's pretty. Yeah, it's semi-opaque, right? You can go over that. You can go over each other. I don't want to do it while it's wet because then you could temporarily do that. Here's the black, which is I'm probably not going to use that too much because I have so many of these in black already, different brands. But um, I really like these, and I have a feeling they're going to raise the prices because these things just hit the market. Um, it looks like a paint marker where paint covers paint, but
Yeah.
you do see like a ghost inside there. And imagine if I pick up the yellow here, it's going to be even more pronounced. And then yeah, so I can do a lot with these. I have a series of faces that I'm doing, and colorful hair. I could see these for posters. I could see these for backgrounds on original art. I could see these for lots of different things. So very very pleased, and I don't know how long these are gonna last, but if these are 19.99 for a set of these, paint markers are pretty expensive. Like
Yeah.
the usual Sharpie
Yeah.
marker with the spring loaded tip, it's like
The
$15.
Posca.
It's like $15 for four of them. So,
Yeah.
so this is a great deal, and exciting.
What what about a larger area? Can you do like a little bit of an area, and like is there a streaking when you do a flat? You know what I'm saying?
No, no, it's pretty uniform. Yeah, I mean, I have the white here, which I haven't tried yet. But if you go over it, it's just like it's
Oh, wow. Look at that.
pretty uniform.
Yeah.
And now let's try some blending and see what happens with that. So blending, you might be temporarily sullying, the tip of one marker.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think that if you got like two or three sets, then you could have like multiple markers. Like you could have a red and a blue that are kind of already mixed. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, right. Well, actually, it doesn't really mess up the tip too much.
It doesn't.
It just lays on top. So, yeah, just I guess check out your local Staples and see if you can get these on the promotional thing. 19.99 for the whole set. They had a smaller set that was like I don't know, like 12.99 or 9.99. I passed that up. This was a better deal. But
how many markers are in your set, Jake?
is it 12? I just threw the thing out. Hold on.
Yeah, I think it is 12.
Or I could just count them. This isn't the right piece. By the way, Kurt, I got some stuff in the mail. I guess you did too. I'll go over that in a second. Well, let's see. We got
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And the color choices are really interesting.
Well, if you have an Amazon, I'm getting them right now. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can get them for $17.99 free shipping. So I'll be doing that right when I finish up here with you guys.
That's cool.
Right. Speaking of Jeff Bezos undercutting, Staples and whatever local stationery store might still be around, but yeah, take advantage. I mean, that's how they get you. They're really nice. I don't know, Kurt. I don't know what you're going to be doing that's so colorful, but you'll figure something out, I guess.
Oh no, I've got some plans on some stuff. I got some things in the work. I'm not being shy about exploring color.
So that
we'll keep that for the conversation.
That's my review on that segment we call new media. Before we end, I want to show you guys. I went to the comics.
Your camera just went blurry, Jake. Probably because you were showing off, some. Okay. Put your hand over the camera. Put your hand over the camera, and then slowly bring it back to the
automatic
focus. Put your hand up to the camera. Put your hand up to the camera. Yep, there you go. And then slowly drop it.
Oh, slowly. Okay.
Yeah. It's going to keep looking at your hand.
Inch by inch. Hello.
Maybe,
yeah. All right. Well, you guys can look at something else while I'm loading.
All right.
I wanted to show.
How about?
Yeah, go ahead.
How about?
Wow! Look at that.
Show off the cover of Funk #1.
Oh, please do.
World premiere. Although I think I showed it on my channel. So that's the cover for Funk #1 without any of the additives of a price or anything like that, which is always a pain in the butt to figure out the design.
Are you gonna put something up top? Or is that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just had the logo here. Yeah, I've been deciding on the design for the issue number and the price and all of that stuff. So are you guys going to be in issue #2 and beyond, or just a one-off of issue #2?
Well, Kurt is wailing on that inking, so it's just a matter of how long it takes him to finish. You can see he's really fleshing.
We're going into 2.
Right. Right.
Jake and I have yet to come to a kind of an agreement on anthologies and the design and makeup of them. I'm in the world where I would take these 2 pages and try to create 13 versions of it and get it into 13 anthologies, over time. Like that's just my approach to like being creative in comics and trying to promote oneself and explore the creative process. I think Jake can also once again dispute me on this, but I think Jake, you're thinking more like one and done. Move on to the next thing. We do have to get back to the original pages and stuff, but we're really. Well, go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's really important to build a community, to trade with Alex. We put stuff in his anthology. We can also use those 2 pages in our anthology because they're part of the Turbo world. But maybe you're right. Maybe have a different version of it. Do something different. Maybe play around with some different gray tones or something. But we have to, we have to try and stay, steady and constant on the turbo pages, which is why
Oh, sure.
if I don't do enough to my liking during the broadcast, then I try to put in like another hour or two after we go offline, and try to make up time. I mean, I'm I don't know if this is a mental defect, but it seems like I'm slowing down. I mean, this panel right here, it took me the entire episode last time just to finish this one panel. And Alex is probably shaking his head because Alex does like a page in the time I do a panel, right? But that's how it goes. And some of these pages, some of these panels will go faster than others, but um, I found a good process that I'm happy with. I go blue line pencil, then I go a dark pencil, and we talk the whole time about the dialogue, and what's going to be coming up on the next page and all that kind of stuff. So this is the Turbo project. This is how it works, and we could be taking detours all the time with other projects. Um, I'm very tempted to do some art for the end of the world timeline. Where I'm just doing writing, and I do that sometimes when I'm upstairs. But um,
Yeah,
we
because my thing, I'm sorry, Jake, but my thing about anthologies is that if you really want to put content out there, I think the teaser zine thing is a really good like foothold. So if there's anybody out there that's like struggling to get things finished and get things out there for sale, blah blah blah, just print your own damn comic. Take a piece of 8.5 by 11, figure out how to print it out, 4 pages on each, 2 on each side. You know what I mean? Don't even worry about the staple. Post it on Instagram. Link us. I'll probably end up getting a copy because I love that kind of stuff. But I keep envisioning. I just want to say this out loud. I just keep envisioning for a good period of time, very quickly, that we are producing a 24-page comic book based on Turbo's world. Turbo Pit Fighter is a central character and the thing that kind of drives a action-packed sci-fi romance, post-apocalyptic, all this kind of stuff that hopefully brings people along. But then after, let's say, 4 issues of a anthology type 24 pager with all kinds of good stuff, you cherry pick things out and you repackage it, and you got an issue 1 of Turbo Pit Fighter. You might even have 3 interior variant versions of issue 1, because I scanned these 80% ink lines, which is just black ink lines. Before I go to that, we've got your pencils, and then we've got my crazy value system. We even have your version when we're going through the editing process, or the text part, where you're making changes while you're in there with a stylus and a brush. I mean, it's I just don't subscribe to how a comic book used to be made. Marvel, DC, distribution through Diamonds. I just personally don't have. I'm not trying to push that on Jake. I mean, if Jake wants to get us into Diamond and then like that, okay. I'm only 50% on here when it comes down to it. But I just want to make, get things into books, because as I constantly say, this is my art. This thing, which I printed out of Kinko's, I'm so proud of, because I've worked. These are 12 pages with Jake over 2.5 years. And it's printed and people can get a copy. And I'm not only very proud of it, but it excites me to keep pushing those boundaries. I really do believe people, as creatives, think way too big, because they think that's a moniker of success. And Jake and I are 2 months away from our 3-year mark doing this every Sunday. And that's a huge sense of accomplishment. I believe in doing anything nowadays creatively. So that's my PSA, people. Just print it out, get it on Instagram, charge $1 plus postage. I want a copy.
Right. You put out your wares. Kurt and I both have our own printing. And that's a good model. Once you have the pages digitally, because shipping costs more than the freaking comic.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Shipping
you know,
sucks.
so go print, print on demand locally by you, or else print out on your own printer, or I guess there's some kids nowadays, I call them kids, but younger people that just look at it digitally and they just flip it around on an iPad. Um, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, me, I like, I'm old fashioned, and when I did comics in the '90s, I printed them, I sold them.
You also worked at a printer.
I worked at right. I mean, I did get incredible deals. You reminded me, but the printing is not as much, guys. The printing isn't as much as the postage, and and of course the labor is really the big obstacle. But in terms of our anthology that we're kicking around ideas, another thing that we could do is, if we were really impatient, is we could put out what's called a spoiler, where we put out the inked pages, and then put the pencil pages in the back, because the pencil pages are all done for issue one, for a long time. The problem is they don't have the word balloons, so that would be kind of an artsy fartsy conceptual thing. But again, if we're only making 30 copies of these things, it's really just for the you know couple of dozen super fans or collaborators or publishers or whatever that are following us, part of the family, or part of the community, that's just
Indie creator exchange. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
If you have a zine right here now, I'm telling you, I think I got 20 issues of this left. Let's swap zines and let's get you on the indie creator exchange. So that'll boost your attention signal by 30 people.
Have you guys
30 more people than
have you guys contacted other artists that might be interested or whatever in doing an anthology?
We're first finishing up the third 6-pager, because I think a 6-pager is a good trial, and it could lead to a full comic. And
yeah.
Kind of separate from the Crom idea, where Kurt is looking for artists who are looking for writing. I might be willing to pay for art. Um, you know, it depends. Like, sometimes there's these cut rate guys from Colombia or Brazil or something, and they're pretty good. Um, but I have a little fun for that, because I was selling off a lot of crap on eBay over the last 2 summers. So I have about $900 that are just sitting there. And if I find the right artist, and they're compatible, they like the idea and they like the style, we might go into some kind of thing where, they're contributing their art and their labor, and I'm giving them, some kind of per page price, and then we're sharing the spoils of the content that's created. So that's a possibility for me, but um, I haven't found the right artist yet. I offered this one guy online, and he never responded. And there's another Japanese girl that I did hire to do some drawings, and that was fun. But you know, once I have these 6-pagers, because they're all going to be part of the Turbo world, um, we'll have more to choose from. And I'm also going to make that little chart that I showed you guys, so that it'll make a little more sense to people. Okay, there's this world, and here are these different subplots that I might like to try my hand on. And I'm hoping that coming out of the convention, that we might be able to hook up with some people on this. But if not, there'll be other conventions, and there'll be other opportunities.
If you ask people, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that would be interested in working on it, paid or not.
Right. I know. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that's the free comic script concept that I have completed my 3 comics scripts, for Crom the Barbarian, or Crom Anthology, I should say. These are all different types of themes. And the idea is that these aren't to be on a competitive level. In other words, I'm not looking for people to download these and immediately, rush to get it done and get it in front of me so they can get in the book. Once again, I got to go back to I want variant versions of these scripts over and over and over again, and I want them in different zines. I really want there to be way more about a play than a pay type of situation. We just can't paying people right now at this level of comics. Once again, my own point of view is really not helping anybody. I mean, to get a couple bucks in your pocket is one thing, but if you're actively becoming a part of a community and you're contributing at whatever level you can, and then you're promoting back out on that, over time, you're really making something grander than just this comic book. Again, I just don't subscribe to I made a comic book. Well, okay, then what do? You got to get these people in there. Jake has 2 scripts done. I'm the one that imposed the 3. We'll have them up on probably my kurtbrugel.com, maybe even Hellclaw too. I mean, it doesn't, it just depends on how the downloading goes. But the idea is to engage people who are engaged by this. There's 2 types. There's a couple types of people I've met so far when it comes to comics. There's the people that just don't want anything to do with this kind of stuff. They want to be a professional. They want to work for Marvel, DC, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then there's the 2 people like Alex. You're very much in the type of guy or person in comics that I just absolutely love engaging with, which is a love for comics, the making of them. Let's get together. That kind of zine building and building a world. Once again. I used to have it near me, but I don't know where it is. Oh, wait a second. Here it is. This came out the same time I did my, my Crom collective. Yeah. And some people were sending me texts going, "Oh no, man, somebody else is doing Crom." I was like, "Yes, bring it on." Yeah. I contacted Jamie. I don't like showing off a lot of what's going on in here. Here's the Alex Turbin right here. And I was like, this is just exactly what I'm talking about. Then there's people out there, that I've come across that, they want to get paid to become a professional. And I just in comics. And I think that's borderline crazy. I don't, I guess there's people out there that are paying. There are people out there paying for that. And I'm not putting just with one. I'm not putting it down. I'm just trying to put perspective to what the real game is in recuperating your investment. Not only money, but the time and energy you spend. Yes, sir.
So, there's a lot of analogs between making comics and the whole, band and musician scene.
Yeah.
So I had a drummer in the Von Ghouls. He's a cool guy, and he was with us. I don't know, 3 years. Played a lot of gigs, and he had this philosophy because he does open mics and he does this and that, and he has this philosophy that the club or the bar should not be having bands there that don't get paid. And then I'm like, well, some of these bars are fighting for their existence too. They're not making money. They're losing money and everything. And so, we had this gig, and it was this notoriously chintzy bar owner, in Rockland County. And, at the end of the gig, we were hanging around, and he's like, all right, did we get paid? And so I went up to the bartender. I had a talk and everything, and it was like, nah, they had a really bad night. It was a bad turnout. The only people there were the people that we brought, and they can't pay. And then the guy's like, no, man, screw that. He goes, tell them we're never gonna play here again. Blah blah blah, all this stuff. So then I went, had another, and we actually hung out there for a little while. So by the time we were leaving, the the cash register, did a little bit better. So they gave us like $35, right? And and I distributed it among the band members, so we all got like $7.
Tax withheld it?
We all
You
got,
withheld tax? Did you
but
withheld
Yeah,
tax?
yeah.
but you should have seen this guy. He took his $7, he put it in his pocket, and he was just so satisfied because he was like, it's not the amount, it's the point that workers need to be compensated for their labor and blah 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 and all this philosophical stuff. And I was like, all right,
Okay,
man,
that's cool.
he was
Yeah.
happier than a pig and shit, and so
Yeah.
I am at now, Kurt remembers when I was working for Brainstorm Comics, I was doing writing and everything. It was the same $7. It was like I was getting $6 a page, and it takes you way longer than minimum wage to fashion a decent page. But it's the point was it's a token, right? It's all right. We'll give you what it can. Like you're a professional. You want to say you're a professional? Here's $7. Now you're professional. So I just wanted to throw that story in there because
It's great.
there is a mix here. There's
Sure.
there's artists that love what they're doing. They're contributing to art, but it's they take that $7 and they're like, I'm gonna buy myself a special pie. It's like I'm gonna treat myself. Like this is the coolest $7 I ever got. Right. So it's just all the mentality, and the approach. So there's that too. But Kurt, you didn't bring up the other example, and that's the overseas mercs. There
What?
are
Well,
these.
that's who I'm really talking about. You know
No,
what I
you
mean?
talked about the people that do it for the love, and the people that are trying to get their
No,
foot in
the
the
last
door, for
yeah, but
Marvel.
the last one was, was basically people at the same level of, let's say, creative output, visually speaking, it's not at a, a commercially viable attention tracking style. It's just at this, Frankensteining a comic book together because I only have so much time and so many skills to put the whole thing together. And then they want to get, an incredible page rate. And it's like,
Well, and
I have there has to be a more exceptional, because I have and will pay, but that person has to be of a social standing. Like they have to come with a name. They have to be a name.
Yeah.
I went through the same thing. I got paid for the work I did in the 90s when I cornered the guys that I work for, because I got all my work through comic book conventions.
right.
None of those published, you know what I mean? Like, but I never was in the mentality that I got to
Isn't that
get
funny?
paid.
At a
I
convention-
needed the work. Like I
Isn't that
needed the
funny
work
at a
because I needed to get better.
It's so funny at a convention when people go and say, "Is so and so here?" Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Where's that motherfucker's table? Because he has $5. Or else I'm gonna get some copies or something. I want a pound of flesh. And yeah, I mean that's the fucked up thing is like if you promise something, you pay the goddamn money, right? I don't care if you lost it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
go to your pocket. But there's all this like desire, and Kurt, what we're talking about, because I saw your post on Reddit, and there's also this group on Facebook of like seeking collabs, writers seeking artists. um you know there's your pro guys, there's people that have a credit in Marvel or DC or some other or maybe like a smaller tier publisher. Then there's people that are just doing their own home baked goods and stuff.
Mercenary. Well,
But
yeah.
on these websites, right? But then
They're mercenaries.
you have these overseas guys that are mercenaries, and it's what I call everything in between. Like you can look at somebody's style and you can say, all right, it's a little off for Marvel and DC, but maybe it's a little power comic-y, or maybe it's a little like unique in its own weird way where it has its own charm, or maybe it's like like visibly bad in areas with anatomy and stuff. But there you could always embrace the suck, and just say, all right, we're gonna have fun with this, because it's still storytelling, and it's it comes out of, obviously it comes at a much reduced rate, and maybe people just want to see something in print, and they don't care about the particular level. If the writer is just starting out, if the artist is starting out, those are beautiful things, right? Just like, put out shit and throw stuff at the wall. So
Well, the thing was, is with that, with the two comic book collab places that were, no, I went two on the big one is the Reddit collab, and I knew I was like stepping into, because I flared it as unpaid work.
yeah.
I very much explained. Please go to the website and read more about it. Check it out. The whole kind of thing, and it was an intentional base of getting people to understand that I wasn't there looking for you, the mercenary. I actually even had script written. Like, I'm not interested in freelance mercenaries. I'm not. That's just not where I'm at right now. I am interested in sword and sorcery, fantasy comic book fans. That's what I'm after and stuff. But I will say this, and it's probably going to come and bite me in the ass somewhere down the road. But that comic collabs just really felt more like comics for hire. Like, that's what the group should change itself more to being specific, because it seems like I even went to people because I really thought their style would go.
Yeah.
And I swear to you, it just, my language was falling on deaf ears. Like, all they kept coming back with, oh, it's my portfolio though. What do you want to do? Like, okay, well, I got these scripts, you want to, get in and, and maybe put something together and then get on my podcast. Yeah, but I got these are my samples. What do you want to do? I was like, are you a robot? What's going on? You know what I mean? It's like, maybe there's a language barrier. I don't know. But I knew what I was getting into, so I'm not upset, and I'm not like poo-pooing that, because I see plenty of comic books being produced in that fashion, and that's fine. That's fine. I just, I want to use any platform that I'm on to just megaphone who I am, how I identify, how I want to work, how I want to grow and build a community. That makes more sense to me than trying to rat race myself into somebody else's identifiers for, okay, Kurt, your work is really good, but could you stop doing this? Nope, can't, because I want to do more now. Yeah. I just can't do it. And now I'm 57. I'm 57 years old, so I'm all done with trying to do work for hire. So if you're a young person out there, do it, man. Do it. It sucks, but you will learn so much not getting paid, more than you would be in trying to get paid for as little work as you can do, because that's what work for hire is. You're not getting their best work. You're never going to get anybody's best work on work for hire. That's hands down the truth.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because just last night I was on YouTube, and up in my feed, the Frazetta girls are always in my feed, but they don't have anything new right now. So I'm looking at Comic Tropes guy, and he's got this Frazetta piece.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, I watched that.
And what a difference between the work that Frazetta did when he knew he could keep the original art.
Yes, very good point, Jake. Yeah. Very good point. That set me on fire when I heard that. I was like, yes, that's what I mean. Own it.
Because he was investing 10 times more, time, effort, love, care, everything. And you could see, like, he has a quick style. Frazetta definitely has a quick style. You don't want that style. You want the other style. Let him keep his damn art, and then you can put it in the museum, and then you get a much better piece. But it's because they wanted to keep the art, and they were like doubling and tripling up on the original art, and it's like, all right, are you a freaking art, dealer, or are you a comic or a book publisher? Or post, like sometimes it was a movie poster or whatever. There was the time where Clint Eastwood bought the original art for the movie, and he paid a lot of money for it, and
Well,
so
he forced them. What was it? The rumor is that he forced them. He was basically, I'm not gonna hire you unless I can own your art. And Ellie was at that place where, because Ellie's the one that's responsible for all of that. It's not Frank at all. It's always Ellie.
Right.
yeah, she was
And Ellie was like, no, that's not what we do. We have to own the originals and all like that. And he's like, nah, then you don't get to work. And then I'm sure somebody said to either Ellie or Frank or something, was like, that's Clint Eastwood. Kind of like, and what that means in Hollywood. Like even now, Clint Eastwood is the player in Hollywood. So if he called me and said, look, this is what I want you to do exactly. Okay, Mr. Eastwood, you can have the originals too. If that's my goal, if that's my goal to get into Hollywood and make art, it's the give and take kind of thing. So, I just don't see it ever changing.
Yeah, the same can be said. I mean, in nowadays, you might not even have any original art, right? Because some of these guys are just doing this.
Yeah, the digital part.
All digital.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can still say, all right, maybe we can make a deal where you publish this in your country. Maybe we have a deal where you you can exploit it just like I can exploit it, and I like those kind of deals. Maybe you have there's a lot of different ways to structure it, but it depends. Like, you got to ask the artist, all right, do you have a day job? Or is this like your desperate lifeline? Or do you have a day job, and maybe how can we make this sweet so that you'll be as invested in this little project that we're working on as much as I am, and you're not just a hand for hire. Those are the good things, and I think
Well, this is how I see it in a very bizarre way. Comic books making money is, other than getting mainstream contract work that are paying high rates, is fan art. And so you draw fan art in order to sell the fan art, in order to pay for your ability to make your comics, or to subsidize even the work you're doing, at a detrimental low to no cost variable. My thing in my head, which is absolutely outlandish to say, but I just want it on record, is one day Turbo and Crom are going to have its hold in the comic book industry, just based on our podcast alone. People will. Hey, did you ever do that? You ever get a copy of Turbo, or did no? Oh, it was this whole thing. It was like 12 years, 25 years. These two nut jobs met every Sunday. But if you were there and you worked on Turbo pages back in 2025 or 2026, there's something that could have a increase in your value as an artist, but not and not only the if you had original art. That's kind of my thinking, is betting that somewhere down the line, these two IPs are going to have some kind of substantial foothold in the industry as a whole. And so therefore, if you partaked in it, it's kind of like fan art, but for long-term goal making.
Right. As long as neither one of us gets caught soliciting 14-year-olds over the internet, I think you have a point right there. That the longevity of it, and when we finally have our first comic out, you're not going to be a big name, but you might be a name that's in the circles. Could be regional, or it could be niche, or with the sci-fi stuff or whatever. But yeah, that's all you're trying to do. You're just trying to make some waves and get some attention. I mean, I hate the attention seekers. I think, like, your content should speak for itself, and then hopefully there's some word of mouth. But it's a slow build, and we understand. It's a drip campaign, and for my part, I just try to put my head down and do content, whether that's making pages or clicking and clacking on my keyboard, and I'm writing stuff that's going up on the Substack. But hopefully, I mean, I think if somebody sits down and really, really reads and really really gets into the story, that they might see that it's a little better than average writing, and then they might want to invest then, as an artist, if they're going to invest in a project, if they're going to kind of take a gamble, let's say, on something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's that, but then there's also like um collabing, and there's also networking with like-minded people.
Yeah.
Maybe we put an ad in somebody else's book, or maybe somebody else puts an ad in our book, stuff like
Well,
that.
going back to IC3 in March, like I keep sharing my anxiety, and the positive way of anxiety goes is that, there's going to be some people that are actually going to look forward to meeting us and seeing us, because we don't ever really show our faces, just because the camera situation is just the way it is. And I really don't think anybody needs to see how good looking you are, because that type of thing. But I have worked very hard at saying no, because I love saying yes to everything. You know what I mean? Like, as a creative person, especially when they're cool ideas and stuff. But as my business has been developing over the last 8 years, being freelance as an artist, I have learned the power of no. But man, I'm getting really nervous and anxious about having to, hey man, what about this idea for a Krom? Or hey man, what about this idea for Turbo? Like, oh damn, that's a really good idea. You know what I mean? Like, that always happens when a bunch of people get together at a comic book convention. I just got to learn to say, not right now. I'm not saying no. It's just not right now, my friend.
Yeah.
Or just say that's a great idea, but then don't say anything further. That's a great idea.
I'll try. I'll try.
But when we hang out, you got to bring a little notepad, because
I got a cell phone.
I have or that I haven't really sat down to write a Krom script, but I have it in mind. I have some ideas, and if I just give you like an outline, maybe you can take it and do your
Oh, absolutely, Jake. Absolutely.
AI and work.
Well, I have you down for a pinup. You have a Krom pinup you've been doodling at here and there.
Oh yeah,
you sent me that sketch. Yeah, yeah. So you're gonna be in there just based on that pinup that I'll make you finish.
So here's what. Let me see if this comes into focus now. Here's what I saw. I went into Newberry, and I took a couple pictures. This looked like a pretty interesting artist here, and it looks like Toshitaka Mink Amano, and there's something called Shinjuku. This was on the rack of like the new releases, and this was a pretty sizable volume. It looks really interesting. It was shrink wrapped, so I couldn't see inside, but I looked at the front and back. And what is this thing? Am I missing out? Everybody's doing this 2-color thing now with the black and the red.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big.
Yeah,
yeah.
We gotta talk about that. I saw this. So EC is back alive in some form. And Alex, you missed it, but I was telling Kurt about like last week about all these like gimmicky covers with like metal foil and like so many variants. The retail comic chain Newberry Comics, they'll sell you a comic for $5, but if you get this like metal version of the same thing, it could be like $20 or like $15, and everything in between. Yeah. So like, check this out. They're selling this right off the bat, and it's interesting because it's like the original black and white art with all the stupid markings that nobody cares about. Who wants to see this? But it's like approved. It has the the markings of the paper company.
Right.
Like, so
it's the artist edition thing, isn't it?
Right,
yeah, that's the artist edition thing.
Right. I mean, but it's the artist edition.
But it's not bigger.
Right, but it's not like
it's not. Yeah.
It's not like Stan Lee is writing in the margin. It's like this is the artist edition for a comic that came out in the '90s for or EC relaunch or something. So it's just not as historical. I'm sorry. But yeah, that kind of stuff. It's they are trying to now sell that, because the artist editions, like, you would only be able to get those at like Forbidden Planet or a really good store. Now these are just in the local comic shop. What else? So this came out, and this is brand new. I probably should have bought this. Look, $3.99 cover price, and I think they own. I'm not gonna play that game where there's like variant covers and I'm buying more than one of the same thing. No, but some of the but this is a guy that we have covered on Comics and Influence, Michel Fife or Michel Fife. And so this is a brand new edition that's out under Image, The Death of Copra. And I flipped through it. It's more of the same if you like this person's style. It was really nice. I think I'm regretting not buying it, but it might still be there when I go back.
You should. You should
Um,
regret it.
so here I got this because I think Frank Miller is officially a prostitute now.
Wow.
Here is a Frank Miller cover for an Image series from the creators of 8 Billion Genies, which I didn't really know or care for or anything. I flipped through it, I'm sure. Now they have the Lucky Devils. And I looked through this. It is these like devil characters, but everybody has to get a Frank Miller variant cover now. And so these guys are no different. And Frank Miller, what do you think he's charging? Do you think he's charging like $1,000 or maybe just a couple of hundred? What do you think?
Is he doing the colors too, or is it just
I doubt
just
it.
the pencil, the inks?
I doubt he's doing the colors. I highly doubt.
And I don't think any of his new stuff. I don't think he's penciling at all. I think he's just inking.
Yeah, he's just having fun. He's probably doing this on a cocktail
Yeah.
napkin.
Yeah.
So
Not many people like the new Miller stuff.
well, he's getting into this like crazy style that's quick. I mean, probably when he's dead, it'll all be collectible. But I obviously like Daredevil versus Bullseye the best myself. I don't know about you. The Dark Knight was pretty cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, 300, Sin City, and then that's already like 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you go to your local comic store, expect to see Frank Miller covers on Marvel, on Image, on all these guys. Image has the money. All right, let's do a Frank Miller variant cover. I don't know who's fronting the money, but there's all these like sub production companies now with Image, right? Like here it says Image on the left, but here on the right it says Silent Productions, and they all have these little
Mm.
teams and stuff. Moving along, I didn't get that much. Guess who we have to lay to rest, guys?
What,
So,
David Lynch?
well, yeah, this was after that. So Greg Hildebrandt died on Halloween.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so now the comics are coming out with these memorial pages to him, and this one is a big thing of his face with some writing that they just threw together. How about seeing some of his artwork? So in a different comic, they showed some of his great painted artwork, and I have to say, I didn't realize, but I think I know where Alex Ross got his idea from to take Marvel characters and make them into painterly masterworks.
That's a really good
Yeah.
point.
Hildebrandt did
Yep.
it. He did it first,
Yep.
and he didn't do it that much, so people might
Yep.
not know. But
Yep.
He's a brother, right? Isn't there
Yeah.
a brother of his?
yeah, there
Yeah.
was
Tim passed away years ago.
Uh,
And they're twins.
so
yeah.
Kurt
I just bought a Hobbit graphic novel, and I thought it was them doing it because they did do a Hobbit or Lord of the Rings thing, but it actually wasn't them. It was some other painted thing.
right sufficiently ripped off so that they become a style now. Ooh, that's
Right.
Hildebrandt's style.
Right.
It's like it's noticeably painted, but there's colored lighting coming from different angles. That's the big thing with that.
They really had their style down. They were great. They're great.
Yeah,
Great work.
maybe if I do like a little digging around on the web, I might pull together a little slideshow, and maybe we'll show that in a future episode.
That'd be cool.
I think
That would be
they're
cool.
worth spending some time on. Here it's cropped off, but you can see this was in a Dynamite comic, and they could, Dynamite comics. I think their ads are better than their comics, honestly.
Yeah.
Cut off here, but you can see they're relaunching Savage Tales, and they have Red Sonja and Dija Thoris and somebody else. But you know, Dynamite is they've got Barbarella, and they do a really good job of like Miss Fury and getting all these old um oh here look I got this, and getting these old series revitalized. And I think Dynamite is basically a retailer that expanded into being a publisher. Look at this, guys. It doesn't have the year, but this is Greg Hildebrand doing Marvel. Look at that.
Wow.
Come on.
So I'm wondering, like, since Diamond did Chapter 11, like they're still just distributing comics, but isn't that the way all indie comics are distributed to comic book stores?
If there's still a store, yeah. There's about like I think between 200 and 300 retail stores left in the whole country. Is that right?
Right,
I
right.
think that's
But they're
right.
not going to
Yeah.
get any. They're not going to get any indie comics if Diamond stops distributing altogether.
Just because they're in Chapter 11 doesn't mean they're stopping.
Right, right. But I think that's kind of a precursor for them stopping.
They could, but they could also emerge. It depends.
Right,
Yeah, I
right,
mean, right now Marvel and DC have their own versions of the previous
right,
catalog, and
right,
they
right,
basically just ship UPS. So what do you need, a distributor for at that point?
right, right. But I mean, there's a huge amount of indie comics that are distributed through Diamond, and they don't have any other distributors, right?
Right, and and
I don't know. I think there are some people that do.
Lumi or Luma or something.
There's somebody, yeah. Now, Mike White, he was in the chat. I don't know if he's still there, but he did.
Yeah.
He called comic book stores that had a reputation for endorsing and promoting indie comics, and
Yeah,
really did the legwork, which I think is super necessary to get
that's what
the
I'm gonna.
attention.
That's what
The
I'm gonna do.
attention you require, because you've made a humanitarian connection with the owner instead of a, why didn't you buy my comic book? Why can't you sell my comic book? It's like,
Yeah,
oh my God, kid, like, please, get going. I got 20 million comics I got to sell. I got to pay my rent. Got to buy a hoagie for lunch and dinner. I mean, it's like,
we need to get the retailer perspective, and that's upcoming. I think Kurt can announce that that's upcoming.
well, Tom's coming back. Tom Chalimi we had on last year, but he got that new bug. So he's down for the count right now. I tried to get him for this Sunday, but he's still down.
We're gonna
So
have him sooner rather than later, and
yeah.
Before we all say something that we don't know, we're gonna have the retailers themselves. We're gonna have Tom on there, and he was a wealth of information.
yeah.
We can find that kind of stuff out, and maybe retailers appreciate a cold call. Maybe they hate it at this point. It depends.
Yeah, they're really different.
But Tom can tell us. So we're gonna let that be our guide, and hopefully.
You know what Tom said towards the end?
What?
It stuck with me. He goes, if you're making a comic book, I'll use myself as an example. If you're making a sword and sorcery comic book, make sure you make the cover look like Savage Sword of Conan, and I can sell it.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So it helps like play, you know what I mean? Like, if you make a book and you want a library to buy it, they say you need to very much hit them over the head on where it goes in the library. So YA, even the YA part is like, that's not good enough. Why is it mystery? Is it dragon fantasy?
Right.
Is the kid a werewolf? I mean, like, because they have these huge sections that they just want to point every kid that comes in to the YA werewolf sci-fi section. You know what I mean? Like, people have got to stop thinking, I made a comic book, can you sell it for me? No, you can't. It won't sell. You know what I mean? It needs genre application.
Right. It needs to be turned horizontally and not just the spine on a shelf in Barnes and Noble, right? Or
in a stack. You know how they stack them one on top of the other, and you can only see the Marvel logo at the top left-hand corner. That's how I saw comic books in the newsstand.
Yeah.
At that, I didn't see comic books. I mean, a spinner rack at the 7-Eleven, that was great. But when I went up the street to go and get comics out of the newsstand, it was just right there on the newsstand, and they were, leafed together.
And this is what we're seeing. This is why I go to Newberry all the time, because it's pathetic, but every Marvel comic now is a #1. They have a variant covers. They think they're going to get you with hollow foil. They think they're going to get you with TNA. They think they're going to get you with every trick in the book, except for making a great comic inside. I mean, I'll admit that sometimes the insides are good. They're fine. They're not.
Yeah, no, you've gotten some really nice ones.
Yeah, but what's frustrating is that it's 20 pages, and then you have just as many ads as you have pages of comic, or it seems like it, and that's annoying. That's why I love an indie comic. There's no ads. Maybe there's 2 ads in the back, big deal, but or a couple of ads in the back. But Marvel is putting them all throughout. That's getting annoying. I mean, I know it's always been the case, but I don't know. I'm an indie comic lover. So the other thing is the variant covers, like 20 variant covers. Really? Like, do you need 20 variant covers? So
and they're not spectacular. Like, if you have something that's completely spectacular, then I understand a variant. But if it's just like more of the same,
right? I mean,
why?
It's kind of like it's kind of like that thing where it's like, hey, we don't have anyone coming to see our band, so let's get 5 opening bands, and this way there'll be a lot of people there, right? It sounds like, hey, let's give Joe down the street a variant cover so that we'll try to get his whole audience to buy our comic. Enough of that. And then you know what they sell? You might know this already, but they sell a bulk pack, and it's like, look, you can get all 10 covers in a shrink wrapped presentation, and it's like, who would want 10 copies of the same comic? I would.
Yeah.
I would never want that.
Yeah.
So it's just getting to be goddamn ridiculous. Kurt, I assume you're going to be wrapping us up, Kurt.
You know what? I just want to say, Alex, you have helped make a dream come true for a young comic book artist that has his own YouTube channel with his best buddy, Jake. Because last week, I didn't tell Jake this, and I wasn't telling you either, but I wanted to go as long as I could on the like over 2 hours, which we have done on a live stream, just to see what's happened. And I just have to say, a lot of people are backing out of the YouTube. A lot of attention to what we're doing, answering questions. I just want to thank everybody for putting their comments in there. It just, I really have so much hope doing this and seeing people react to what we're talking about and putting their own 2 cents in. And so, I think maybe we'll be doing more of these let them roll. I mean, we can't, when we have, like, next week, we do have our first indie creator exchange interview, but I'll get to that in a second. But I really do want to give a great big thanks to Alex once more. A couple of people were shouting, where's Alex's channel? And somebody did. Awesome. Somebody said, just Alex Turbin. They kept saying Alex Turbin. I signed up. So hopefully you got a couple sign-ups on your channel.
That's awesome.
But I got to jump in there, right? This is This is going out to everybody in the universe, right? If you're on a Zoom call, or you're on a podcast, or you're on something, and you say to somebody, "What is the URL?" or "What is the contact information?" Folks, Google you just as quick as the guy that you're bothering. Yeah. Just Google.
Even if you misspell Alex Turbin, just put comic behind it. It'll definitely come up.
Right. And it's like, oh no, they gave me a turbine company, right? But it's not only quicker to just get the habit of just Googling something, but it's also good for the person to put it into a Google search and then click the button, because then they're on the map more, with Google. So so folks, this whole thing. Oh, the link is in the description. If you're interested in something, pull out your other device. You know you have one there, and and Google it. Right. So sorry, Kurt. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh no! It's all right. It's all right. I really just wanted to give Alex the first round of closing us out and tell us more about what he has going on and where to get him and take it down.
Okay. A couple things. Funk isn't out yet. It's probably going to be out next month after that. I'm getting 3 issues done before we really push it, promote it. It's going to be Kickstarter. I'm going to do what you were saying about trying to get something happened with Jake's camera. I'm going to try to get a list of comic book stores, get into there and all that stuff.
Nice.
So it's going to
nice.
be a big push. Really going to try for that. But personally, I got the Death Knights that I just printed out. It's #1, and but it's reprinted from Random Access. Almost all of my stuff is reprinted from Random Access. A lot isn't, but some is. But bigger than that is my you can go to my website, alexanderturbin.com, and you can pick this up for $2.99, or you can get that and the Lance of the Death Knight, which this is broken. So this is the Lance of the Death Knight. There's a version where you can get the Lance and the comic for $5, or you can get for $35 this
my gosh.
figurine,
So
this statue.
my
This is
gosh.
resin made, so
You
I can
made
make
that?
as many as.
You
What's
made
that?
Did you sculpt
Yeah.
that, Alex?
Yep, I
Oh my
sculpted it,
gosh, that is
and
awesome. That is so awesome.
you can get this at alexanderturbin.com unpainted for $35, and you also get the Lance and the comic book, or you can get painted for $50 and you get the Lance and the comic book. And also,
gosh,
Fun.
I'm trying to get a series of sculptures done, and so my next target that I'm trying to do is Blood Desert and Adam Yater's Blood Desert Mayhem character. I'm in the works
that's
for
so
doing
cool.
that. And then you guys are my target after that. I'd like to do a Turbo Pit Fighter sculpture and resin figurine and stuff. So
Alex, that's
watch out for that.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Wait, I got questions. So you're you right. Like, sorry, this is more of a segment.
Fine. It's fine.
So you have all of these random access issues that you've been putting out over the years, and now you're
Yep.
taking like the particular section that pertain to a character and putting them out in their own book. And
Yeah.
then, if you have available time, you could also spruce it up with new material, right?
Yep.
That is so fun. You know, when you go into the fridge and you got some leftovers there, and there's like maybe like some, beef and broccoli from the Chinese place, go ahead and put some, some other stuff in there. Put in some, parsley, dress it up. Oh, maybe I'll melt some this cheese I got on there, and and add some cashew nuts to
Right.
give it some crunch, right? You got to take the old stuff, and you got to spruce it up a little, right, guys?
Yeah. But
So
that was always the plan with Random Access. Is I was going to do 10 pages a month, and it was going to have 3 rotating stories, and eventually, like the Death Knights here, and also Queller and Cyrene, they would get their own comics, because anthologies, which Random Access is kind of an anthology, don't really sell that well, and I can understand why, because it's only a snippet of a story, and who wants a little snippet when you want the whole thing?
Graphic
but
novel.
Right, or a graphic novel. But now I have like 4 issues worth of Cyrene, and 4 issues worth of Queller, and a bunch of issues worth of Death Knight that I can all wrap up into individual comics. So if people don't want to get the anthology, then they can get the collected editions.
So here's an interesting follow up, and maybe Kurt will relate to this too. So while you're doing all those issues of Random Access and you're making the 3 segments, now are these all your pencils and inks, or are these other artists too?
I have two backup stories, 2 pages of backup stories because I do 10 pages and the comic is 12 pages. And the backups are usually right now it's Chris Knox and the other one is Paul Courtjohn. And but I have different artists and writers that you know produce stuff for me.
So, so you're basically doing all the pencils and inks, and you're doing 3 different characters in an anthology, coming out all,
Yeah,
and then later they're going to get compiled into their own book. So
you're right.
I think this is really healthy. There was this famous artist. Oh God, what's his name? The one of the most famous African American art. Oh, Jacob Lawrence, one of the most famous African American artists. And what he did was different in his studio. He would line up like 9 canvases at a time, and I think this is great for artists like that have ADD, but you work on one, then you move to the other one, then you do the other one, because every time you keep coming back to the first one, it's fresh, and getting a fresh look at it.
Exactly.
And you
Exactly.
Yep.
right, and it might be like kind of maddening for somebody that has ADD to work on one character 25 pages all the way through, and then
Oh, it is.
so
Oh, it is.
this is a way to manage your mental health, right? And then later on, you have all this great head start, for making these books, and then you could spruce it up and throw some pistachio nuts in there and everything, So it's a great way to work. I love what you're doing, and I'm really inspired by that because my stories, it's basically the same thing. We have all these bullet points: Esoteric Hellclaw, the Duke, Kromita, the Shebot, the Pleasure Bots, the Colts, the Sentients, and then Elevena, and of course Turbo. So it's exactly the same, except I might be a little more scattered out in one particular, time.
Right. Yeah.
My mind is like reeling all the time. So, but it's great what you're doing, and it's great to see now that you can build on, all that
I
material.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So yeah, people can see you. I sometimes see you're putting up photos on Instagram. Um,
Yep.
you have
Yep.
this great YouTube channel, which I just I guess I wasn't subscribed to it before, at least not on the account that I'm logged in on now. So I just subscribed to your YouTube channel, and people can just
Awesome.
Google Alex Turbin or Alexander Turbin, and then get the link. And yeah, what else do you want to plug before we hit the bricks?
That's pretty much it. I'm at 5% on my phone, so I pretty
Yeah,
much
yeah,
have to
yeah,
go.
yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
All right. Well, that's a sign.
We have
So,
yeah,
yeah.
just here at the end and everything. We do have next week and the week after. We have 2 very, very talented indie artists, Jeff Moss and then Alec.
No
Eric.
cracking, not fair. No.
I know. I'm trying to remember the names and everything.
Oh,
It's
I know.
yeah.
Right. I mean,
Calfee.
I think
So we're going to be heading back to our normally scheduled week, which will be 11:30. But we do this as a recording. We're still going to be going live. For Making Turbo, Jake and I. You can find me also at cromthebarbarian.com, where I am working on Crom Anthology, and things are going along very, very well. Jake and I are also going to be at the March 15, 2025 Indie Creator Comic Con. So that's going to be a great thing. And if you are into sword and sorcery, I have 3 free scripts. One was edited by Jake Jacobs, there's a nice hour-and-a-half video of him and I going back and forth and editing this, which was really great. The Unknown Sword, and then Children of Thongu. And like I've said, these aren't in a competitive level. It's not who gets them done the fastest and the best. These are very much playgrounds to get started in what I also call the sandbox of Crom the Barbarian, which is also what the Crom Anthology is all about. But other than that, once again, can't thank Alex enough taking the time, hanging out with us, breaking bread on the indie comic thing and pushing everything forward. Jake, what do you have to take us home on?
Check out our other channels. We have Comics That Influence, where we do flip throughs, and we've been going through stacks lately and hauls. And if folks like some sci-fi every week in your inbox to perk you up when you're bored at work, check out Doom Mags. We have our Substack where you can subscribe and get all the latest updates on all of these story plots and timelines, including a couple of illustrations. So, keep tabs on that, and maybe you see something you like.
All right, well, let these people get back to reading comics, making everything they do. And Jake, I will see you next Sunday.
Yes, sir.
All right.
That ought to
Let
keep the bastards
me.
for a while. What was that? Did you know there was a famous? My dad told me there was a famous quote, but it was like caught on